Once we've got it placed on our canvas, let's go ahead and open it up by double-clicking this grayed out player bars field here. And then we'll open up our script. We want to start by adding some variables here. So we're going to add two public slider variables. We're going to call one public slider health slider, and that's where we'll drop in that player health bar we added. Next, we're going to add a public slider. Actually, we caught an issue here, and this is a good point for us to point something out. So you'll notice if I add just slider, we get a red underline, and if I use Visual Studio's autocomplete feature, it's going to fill it in with slider joint 2D. That's because we are actually missing a line of code that gives us access to the slider class, is what this is called. We need to add a using or an include at the top of our script. So we need to say using Unity engine.ui. And you'll notice when I get that line complete, suddenly the red underline disappears and slider highlights that nice teal color. That's because the slider class and component, the scripting side of that, is hidden under this Unity engine.ui namespace. So by adding that include, we can now access those UI elements. So again, we need another slider here. We're going to call this one stamina slider. And then a third variable called stats, and it's going to be a play of the type player stats. So just a quick refresher, public is our access modifier that determines whether or not we can access these variables from either other scripts or our inspector. We have our type, which is the type of variable, the type of data this variable will represent. And then the name of our variable, which is how we actually use the variable, how we access the variable in our code, is by calling the name. If we leave out our access modifier like we do for stats, then it is assumed to be private, which would be the same thing as typing private in front of it. But we can just leave private out and leave it as player stats and, with a name as stats. And if you have the slider script there, or the private thing added there, go ahead and get rid of that, because we want to leave this as it is. Next up, we can go ahead and drop into the start method. We're going to say stats equals get component in parent. And then in our angled brackets, we're going to say player stats, open and close parentheses. And that's going to assign the player stats component that's on our parent player object to that variable. Then what we're going to say is health slider.maxValue equals stats.maxHealth. So this player stats component actually holds all of the stats for our player, things like our health and stamina. So we're going to use those stats to update that UI accordingly. What we can do next is actually click at the end of this line we just typed, this health slider.maxValue, and tap Control or Command, hold that button down and tap the D key, and we should duplicate this line. So now we've got two identical lines here. We're going to just replace health slider with stamina slider, and we're going to place max health with max stamina. Save ourselves a little bit of typing there. And then what we're going to do is highlight both of these lines, so both health slider and stamina slider.maxValue, copy the whole lines and paste them into update. But then on both lines, we'll swap out max value with just value. So we'll remove the max, make the v lowercase, and then instead of stats.maxHealth and stats.maxStamina, we're going to say stats.curHealth or current health and stats.current_stamina. Cur stamina, I'm sorry. Cur being short for current. And once you've got all of that there, go ahead and save your scene. But we have one more thing we need to do, or save your script, but we need to go back over to our Unity. C# or Unity will compile those scripts for us. And then we'll see these two public fields appear on our PlayerBars component. We're just going to drag player health slider into the health slider field and player stamina slider into the stamina slider field. Once you've got that done, now you can go ahead and save your scene and play the game and run around and jump and attack and watch your health and stamina update as you take damage or use stamina. As we go through and make changes to our player by adding objects or making tweaks and things, let's always make sure that this serves as a nice reminder. Let's always make sure that we select our player, go to the Overrides tab, and hit Apply All, just to make sure that all of the changes we're making are applied to our player in all of our scenes.